to Quick Tip Tuesday with Applied Behaviour Solutions. My name is Robin. I know your time is valuable, so every Tuesday we release an episode loaded with quick tips designed to get you in and get you out. In this episode, I want to share a really important message that will help your child give their very best in everything that they do. After watching this, you will walk away with an understanding of how reinforcement works, and you will be able to use it to encourage your child to learn new skills, persist through difficult tasks, engage in more productive and appropriate behaviours, and give their best responses. So while we're live, I will be answering any questions you may have. And if you're watching this after we are live, I'll keep checking the comments under this video and answer the questions there. So you don't have to worry if you're only watching this later. So to give you a quick background, I am a co-founder and director of Applied Behaviour Solutions. So our goal is to create a community for parents of and professionals who work with children that have unique support needs. We use a multidimensional approach to unlock our kiddos' potential. We create individualized programs after doing in-depth assessments based on their support needs. Our behavior technicians then work with this kiddo on a one-to-one basis in their home, their school, the community, depending on their needs. We use the principles of ABA, which is Applied Behavior Analysis, to teach our clients new skills and to build on the skills that they already have. We've worked with a variety of different children with disorders and delays such as autism, ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, Down syndrome, learning disorders, and more. I am a behavior analyst. I design these programs and supervise cases, and I have been working with children who have developmental disorders and delays, as well as with children who just need a little extra support for going on 9 years now. One thing that we believe in passionately at AB Solutions is to motivate our kiddos through reinforcement, not punishment. There is often a lot of confusion about what a reinforcer is. Many parents out there may be making the mistake of thinking that they are reinforcing their child by giving them something that they like, but, and it's a big but, the definition of a true reinforcer is a stimulus that is given immediately after and contingent on a specific response and increases the future likelihood of that response or behavior occurring again. That was a mouthful. Let me say it again. A true reinforcer increases the future likelihood of a behavior or a response occurring. So this means that if you gave your child screen time for finishing their homework, but tomorrow there's another uphill battle to get it completed, then TV time did not work as a reinforcer because it didn't really increase the likelihood of them completing their homework with no fuss. Even though they enjoyed watching TV, something else went wrong along the way, which is why I'm here, to point out some steps and tips that you need to know in order to effectively deliver reinforcement so that your kiddo is motivated to finish their homework when you ask them to. So usually when I want to explain a concept, I find that it helps to make it relevant to the person I'm talking to. So let's quickly look at some examples of how we as adults are reinforced on a daily basis. Whether you're aware of it or not, we are all motivated by internal and external reward systems. Leave a comment if you can relate to any of these behaviors. You may give your best for your next work assignment in the hopes that your boss will praise you or give you a promotion. You may train a little extra hard at the gym this week so that you can feel good about yourself, or perhaps so that you can indulge in a treat day over the weekend. You may buy a lotto ticket for the chance of winning a cash prize, or perhaps you will drive the speed limit when you know there's a camera down the road so that you won't get a speeding fine. The point is that everything that we do is motivated by escaping something bad or receiving something good. So the first step to understanding how to deliver reinforcement is this. There are two different types of reinforcement: positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. Before we continue, it's important to know that in this instance, positive and negative does not refer to good or bad. It refers to adding or taking away. Therefore, positive reinforcement is when you get, so the addition of something good that will increase your future responses. Whereas negative reinforcement is the removal, so the taking away of something bad or aversive to get you back to feeling good, which will increase the future frequency of your response. Right, so the second thing that you need to know is that reinforcement must outweigh the desire to engage in a different behavior or response. So let's use a personal example here. I love feeling healthy. I love it when my clothes aren't tight on me, and I love it even more when I drop a few kilograms. It's a great feeling, as I'm sure you can all agree to. When I follow my diet plan, I'm rewarded with the numbers of my scale going down at the end of the week. Best feeling ever, right? Nope, wrong. If this was a true reinforcer, I would not be snacking on chocolate after dinner or ordering 2 burgers and chips from McDonald's, because losing weight should be increasing the likelihood that in the future I will stick to my diet. But the hot chocolate that's waiting for me when we're done with this tells a different story. The reinforcer that is in play here is the instant access to something delicious, which means that the likelihood of me snacking again later in the day or tomorrow is high. Right, so the next thing that you need to know is, in order to maintain the value of the reinforcer that you're using, you need to make sure that there is no free access to it outside of the set condition. So if you're using sweets to reinforce or increase good behavior by giving your kiddo a sweet every time he does something nice for his brother, but there's a cupboard full of sweets that he can just open at any time and get for free, why would he do something that he doesn't want to do when he could just go grab the sweet himself, right? Or if you offer him a sweet for doing his chores, for doing his homework as an after dinner treat, will he really be that motivated to get one by doing something nice for his brother? But what if he could never get the sweet in any other context, and the only way he could get it was to play nicely with his brother, to share toys, to get along, to not fight? I think he would be much more inclined to do it that way, don't you? Right. The fourth thing that you need to keep in mind for reinforcement is how difficult the task is for them to complete and how much you're reinforcing for different levels of difficulty, as well as different levels of response accuracy. In ABA terms, we refer to this as differential reinforcement. So if a task is really difficult, like blending sounds together for a child that has speech apraxia, or if the response effort that they need to give is very high, for example, a kid that needs to clean their entire room as opposed to just like making their bed, then you need to ensure that the reinforcement that they receive is super strong. If they're only getting a reinforcer that they would rate as a 2 out of 5, with 5 being the highest, but the task is extremely difficult for them to do, they're not going to be motivated enough to perform the task. I would recommend breaking up larger tasks into smaller parts and reinforcing at the end of each part, making sure that the reinforcer that you're offering them is a 4 or a 5 on that scale. If you do this from the start and you get to a point where your child trusts that you will reinforce them, you'll eventually be able to spread out your reinforcement and only give it at the end of a large task. Which actually brings me to our last point for today. So many of you may be thinking that this can't be right. You shouldn't have to bribe your child to do something that you're telling them to do. And you're right. But when you're starting out and when tasks are difficult or new, you need to give them the motivation to persevere. Remember that kids don't always have the same intrinsic motivation that we do. It takes time to shift reinforcement from external stimuli to them being able to do something because they know that if they don't, they'll get into trouble, or if they do, it will feel good. Once they are doing it, you start fading out. Once your child is cleaning their entire room by themselves, then only reinforce them at the end of this task. And then after that's successful, you start a star chart where each time they do their room, they get a star. And after X amount of stars, they get a reward of their choosing. And so on until eventually you won't even need to do that, and your star chart will evolve to the next challenging task. All right, so if we look at all of these points that we covered today, there were 5 of them, and we take a look at our first example of the kiddo who got TB for finishing his homework, but he's still kicking up a fuss every time he has to do his homework and refuses to do it most days. What would we do differently? Right, so 1, we would decide if we want to use positive or negative reinforcement. So think, like, is this a child who would prefer to get something good or have something bad taken away? Right, so let's say we choose negative reinforcement. We will remove a chore that he was meant to do that day. Okay, number 2. Does a reinforcer offered outweigh his desire to not do his homework? So we sit with him, we chat, and he agrees that this is a good deal and it's actually worth it. Step 3. Is the reinforcer accessible outside of doing his homework? So this one's up to you. Now you need to make sure that under no other condition, even if he does something else that is amazing and really worth reinforcing, he does not get a chore removed or done for him. 4. Is the chore removed proportionate to the amount of homework and the level of difficulty? So one way that you can ensure this is sitting with him, making a list of the chores, and he gets to rate how difficult or unliked each chore is to him and what he feels he needs to do in order to have a specific one removed. So each day when he gets his homework, you sit with him and you talk about how many and which chores can be removed if he completes the level of homework received. The more is involved in this discussion, the more independent and accountable he will be when he completes his work. Okay, then 5. You fade out your level of reinforcement. So after a few successful weeks of no refusal of homework, you sit with him and you give him a lot of praise, right, for having done such a great job. Now you discuss a new plan to get a reward with a chosen reinforcer after 3 or 5 consecutive days of him completing his homework under the set conditions. And you continue to fade it out slowly in that same way. And that's it. Look, so there are other factors that we consider when implementing any type of intervention or reward system. If you'd like to know more, please contact us. I hope you enjoyed this one. It's my goal to be brief, to be detailed, and to be done so that you can go back to whatever it was you need to be doing. So we're done. Tune in next week for another episode of Quick Tip Tuesday. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to watch this and other episodes after we have gone live, and also for some really good resources that you could use for your child. Thank you and keep safe.